And to trending now. If you want an example of how politics can turn good into evil, black into white, make people who claim to be compassionate act like total barbarians, you've got to look at the anti-Trump left and look particularly at how they are now attacking Donald Trump's nominee for the Supreme Court, Amy Coney Barrett. Barrett seems a great judge, smart, she's popular, someone who believes a judge must follow the law and not just make it up, as so many now seem to do, which is good, right?
A judge must apply the law as written. Judges are not policymakers, and they must be resolute in setting aside any policy views they might hold.
So what's this problem with this pick? I mean, here we have, look at her private life. She's a devout Christian woman who brought her 7 children to the White House for the Trump nomination, 7 children, including 2 adopted from Haiti, and the youngest with Down syndrome, whom she said at this ceremony was the most loved by all the children. Now, if you think there are some things too obviously good and kind and loving and noble and private to criticise, even if you wanted to smash Donald Trump, you'd be wrong. You take Boston University professor Ibram Kendi, who is as racist as only an anti-racist now can be, suggesting it's Barrett who's the racist here, tweeting, "Some white colonisers adopted black children. They civilised these savage children in the superior ways of white people while using them as props in their lifelong pictures of denial while cutting the biological parents of these children out of the picture of humanity." And journalist Christine Grimaldi, who's written for left-wing outlets like Bloomberg, Trump and Barrett using her black children and child with Down syndrome to score political points isn't surprising, but it's no less appalling. Apparently, the judge sort of left the children back home, particularly the black ones and the child with Down syndrome, so she wouldn't get any sympathy votes. I mean, really. Joining me is Daisy Cousens, a YouTube star with her own video channel. Daisy, how much of this kind of stuff is there out there?
Oh, there is reams and reams and reams of this kind of stuff floating around on Twitter, Andrew. And in fact, this has been trending literally since last weekend, within hours of Ruth Bader Ginsburg's sad passing. I mean, I hate to sound tacky, but her body was barely cold before the regressive left was jumping on Amy Coney Barrett and spreading this kind of just really awful, extreme stuff about her. And the primary criticism that they have of her is that she's some sort of cult member and extreme religious kook because of her past involvement with what they call a charismatic Catholic group called People of Praise. Now, People of Praise has a few sort of what you call niche Christian views, but look, to each their own. Religious freedom, you know, that's what the American Constitution is all about. However, this got particularly bad when an outlet called Newsweek and also Refinery 29 published articles saying that the People of Praise was the group that Margaret Atwood used as inspiration to write her novel The Handmaid's Tale, which of course depicts a hostile takeover of the government by an extreme Christian group that enforces a brutal patriarchy. But of course, as it turns out, Andrew, no, that was not the group that Margaret Atwood used as inspiration for The Handmaid's Tale. Nothing of the sort. However, this stuff, the headlines, they were already out there. They were already floating around. People were rabidly looking for anything to latch onto, and there are just too many people out there that are just too stupid to have any kind of discretion about this kind of stuff.
Well, what that Boston University professor must consider, but I don't think he does, there's a barbarian for you, is what are the children of this woman are supposed to feel, the adopted children? Here's a professor saying she just adopted us to wave around as a CV to prove that she's nice and, you know, ridiculous, these monsters. Now, what does all this tell you, really, about what's going on in America?
Well, it tells you, again, Andrew, that the left and the Democrats have just become completely Machiavellian in the lead up to this election. I mean, surely, if you look at, at Amy Coney Barrett, surely this is what you call a victory for feminism. I mean, with the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, here's another wonderfully qualified woman to take on this role. She's raised 7 children. She's had an incredible career as a professor and as a judge, and she's a heartbeat away from being on the Supreme Court. Surely that's a fantastic victory for a left-wing cause. But no, of course, because she has the wrong politics, all of that gets completely thrown out the window, and somehow she's a racist for adopting black children. She's a colonizer. She's a religious freak who wants to ban contraception and overturn Roe v. Wade, etc., 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 and who preaches that wives should be subservient to their husbands. Well, look, I ask you, Andrew, this is a highly professional woman who's had a huge career. Surely if she believed wives should be subservient to their husbands, she'd be at home chained to the sink, not about to be on the Supreme Court. It's ridiculous.
It's absolutely true, absolutely true. And I think there's a lot of projection going on here, because the left know that if it was a left-wing judge, the left-wing judge would probably be remaking the law to suit their own politics, whereas she says, being conservative, no, the law is the law, that's not my job. But they're just projecting. They think that suddenly, the American Constitution is going to look like the Old Testament. All that smiting and all that kind of stuff. By the way, the media is meanwhile hot with reports that Donald Trump paid next to no tax for years. Trump's tax returns were leaked to the New York Times. Trump says the idea that he paid no tax over the years is rubbish. Here he is.
It's totally fake news, made up, fake. No, actually, I paid tax. And you'll see that as soon as my tax returns. It's under audit. They've been under audit for a long time, but they're under audit. And when they're not, I would be proud to show.
Okay, how big a bombshell is this story, which no doubt is time for the election?
Well, look, it's being presented as sort of a giant gotcha moment for Trump, and certainly the Democrats are treating it like that and calling him a tax cheater and all of those things. However, Andrew, there is a difference between tax evasion, which is illegal, and tax minimization, which is what we all do in terms of tax deductions and tax discounts. But the way this is being presented in the headlines is, that headline from the Sydney Morning Herald: Trump paid only $750 in taxes last year. So he's being presented as having done something illegal. However, if people actually read the article and have even a kind of basic knowledge of how tax works, they would know that, one, the New York Times actually has not provided the documents to support this scoop, which should discredit the whole thing at least a little bit. And two, according to Trump's lawyer, he actually did pay a lot of tax, just not income tax specifically, but different things like Social Security and Medicare, etc. And three, the reason it seems that his income tax payments were so low was because he lost a lot of money. He lost more money than he made, and since you're dealing with these giant sums of money, he's going to have an awful lot of giant tax offsets. And aside from anything else here, you got to remember, Andrew, Trump is not taking the presidential salary, which is $400,000 a year, and in fact, he's donating it back every year to various federal departments, the most recent of which is the Department of Health and Human Services. So all you lefties, if you're worried that Trump's got an excellent team of accountants, which he evidently has, there's $400,000 a year he's donating to the American taxpayer of his own accord.
Daisy Cousens, terrific stuff. Thank you so much indeed for your time.
Thank you, Andrew.